Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to speak a bit about the episode 13 from season 6, The Celebration. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. And if you'd like to know when I post, hit that notification bell. This episode was written by Marion Hargrove and directed by Gwen Arner. In this episode, John discovers that he is only a small amount of money away from having paid off his loan for having built the mill and the equipment and the house. So he is in a position to actually be debt-free for the first time in many, many, many years. So that is an exciting proposition for him and for the family. So this is something that they all get on board with helping to make happen. John has gone to speak with his friend John Martin Henshaw, who you might recognize from the episode The Prophecy with the class reunion that John had, and he was in that, and he's always talking about his mother who drinks too much and goes and has to various different facilities to dry out. And so that's kind of an underlying story that we hear about, but we never actually meet his mother. But John Martin does say that, what John's looking at in this paperwork seems to be true, and he is really that close to having his debt paid off. John decides to try and expedite this process by seeing if he can get an order of some kind, and he goes to speak to the superintendent at this business and gets an offer for a contract for 300 fence posts, who the superintendent thinks John wouldn't be able to handle it in the time period. And John says, we'll do it. So John takes that idea home to the family, and because this involves being able to pay off the debt, everybody says, yes, let's do it. We'll all jump in. And so we have a lot of fun with sequences where we see everybody's assigned a chore, and we see Jim Bob and Jason working in the mill, and we see Mama in overalls, and she's going to be driving the truck to deliver these fence posts. Mary Ellen has been assigned to making the meal, so she says, just beware, you'll get what you get and no complaining. Erin says she will help out when she gets home from her job. So it's a wonderful sort of family pulling together to make this happen, and everybody's in good spirits. And it's really one of the only episodes where they didn't run into big problems with what they were doing. Quite often when we had something like this, the episode became about the obstacles in the way, like when they had to deliver all that lumber and Grandpa tricks the other company, their competition, into sailing, sending theirs down the river with Grandpa knowing that they're going to have trouble doing that, or things where just they weren't able to fill the contract, or it was taken away in some way. But in this case, it's successful, and the family does pull together and make this happen. And John is able to go to the bank with Olivia and pay off that last payment and get their mortgage, which he plans to have a celebration to burn. Other things I noted in this episode, we see early on John is in that new mill. Now, sets like that mill and also the barn, we always shot on the back lot, and those were the actual sets. The exterior and the interior were designed so that we could film in them. So those were not a case of using the exterior on the back lot and then going into the sound stage. Also, there's a subplot with a little bit with Marcia Woolery. John, when he is in town and saw John Martin, he runs into Marcia Woolery on the street, who says that, she's still working at some sort of a store and that John can stop by if he likes, asks about John Boy. And that becomes a running thing because Ike and Corabeth, of course, there is this new Reverend Buchanan who Corabeth feels needs a wife. So she doesn't think that him being an eligible bachelor and a little on the wild side for a minister doesn't quite sit right with her. So she feels like they need to find him a nice sedate woman that he can marry. And when they hear about Marcia Woolery, she's very concerned because she certainly wouldn't want Marcia Woolery being married to the Reverend. So Corabeth's on a bit of a quest there. The subplot in this involves Ike and Corabeth. Now, Ike has had an opportunity to buy 50 refrigerators at an auction for, I guess, a good price. And so he is now trying to sell these electric refrigerators, and he's showing them to everybody who comes into the store, and not having tremendous success. People either say, well, I don't have electricity, that's what Horace says, or that they just don't have need of it. They like things the way they are. At one point, John really upsets Ike because he said, well, if I wanted an electric refrigerator, I'd go into Rockfish and get one from one of, sort of the chain stores. And Ike is very upset, like, you would take your business to a stranger rather than buying from me. Ike finds himself in a real problem here because he has not been able to sell these. And the man from the bank who has given him the loan to buy these at auction keeps coming by because, he has a payment due on this. I'm not sure the terms of it. That doesn't really say, but Ike is now finding that he's in a bit of a hole here. And then also we see him at one point trying to repair one of the refrigerators because it's not actually working. So this leads to a crisis point where Ike realizes he's made a huge mistake, and now he is in danger of losing the store because of the loan that he signed and that he put the store up as collateral. The gathering to celebrate the completion of the loan payoff it happens in the front yard of the Waltons. We hear Jason playing "We Were All Going to a Hoedown" and assorted other things as he strolls around playing his guitar. Neighbors are there to celebrate. Maud is there, so Marie Earle once more made an appearance in this episode. Corabeth is there. She's waiting. Ike was doing something at the store before he could come. Reverend Hank Buchanan arrives with Marcia Woolery, who is wearing a rather skimpy outfit that reveals a bare midriff, which sends Corabeth into a faint. Aaron and Mary Ellen discuss Corabeth's concerns about the possibility that Hank will marry Marcia, and Aaron says not to worry. Hank's not going to marry Marcia. And Mary Ellen says, well, how do you know? She said, well, because I know who he's going to marry. And then she walks off, and Mary Ellen's left with, what do you mean you know who he's going to marry? Jim Bob and Elizabeth have a little side conversation and discuss the fact that people say that Marcia Woolery is a hussy, but I'm not sure that they completely understand what people mean by calling her a hussy. So a lot of cute little things. John is all set to burn this mortgage, and Ike arrives in a complete panic because the bank loan is due. Ike doesn't have the money, and he is about to lose the store, which causes Corabeth to faint once again. Ike, Corabeth, John, Olivia, and John Martin Renshaw go into the house to discuss this, and Ike says he needs $750. He doesn't have it, and he has no more collateral to take another loan. And John Martin says, yes, you do. You have John Walton. That John Walton is the best collateral, and that if John were to co-sign a loan, he's sure that Ike could get this money. John and Olivia have a conversation about it where they feel like they just got out of debt, and why would they want to put themselves back into that debt? Eventually they realize that Ike would do that for them and that it is the Christian thing to do. So they agree to help Ike out. So they were out of debt for all of about an hour, and then there they are back in debt again. Right at the end of the celebration, Mary Ellen catches Aaron and says, oh, by the way, who's going to marry Hank? And Aaron says, I am. which surprises Mary Ellen, and as we know, was not ultimately what happened. We never really pursued that relationship between Aaron and Hank in any significant way. A number of guest and recurring characters in this episode. Of course, Peter Fox was back as Hank Buchanan. Tammy Beulah was back as Marcia Woolery. Wilford Brimley was back as Horace. Ike Corabeth, of course, Ronnie Claire Edwards and Joe Conley, who was always great to have on set. Jack Manning played J.L. Brendamore, the bank manager, and Hal Riddle played the track superintendent. Also, a little bit about Gwen Arner, who directed this episode. I believe she had known Ralph Waite for some time as well, but she went on to direct 13 episodes of The Waltons, 12 of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. She directed Law and Order, 11 episodes of Dynasty, 9 of Falcon Crest, 6 for Dallas. And in a side note, she was married to actor Donald Moffat, who played John's boss in John's Crossroads episode. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Behind the Scenes of The Waltons about the episode from season 6, The Celebration. I will be back with more behind the scenes of The Waltons, more of your questions in a segment of Ask Judy, and probably more special guests. Thanks for watching.